Hey, friends, it's Kirk Harnack for the Telos Alliance. We're talking about home studios during these days of the virus. And on the line with me right here, well, actually, he's in New York. It's Andrew Zarian, who is the founder of the GFQ network, and they produce a lot of live programming. Andrew, hey, welcome in.
Hey, Kirk. I'm glad I'm here. We're hanging in. We're isolated. I mean, this is an amazing example of working remotely, right? You're in Nashville, and I'm over here in New York, and we're able to communicate and kind of keep things going here.
You know, on the one hand, you have a beautiful studio there. You've got some video gear. You've although it's inexpensive video gear. You've got audio gear. You've got some computers. You're kind of like a radio station there. The podcasts you produce are not the offline multi-track, take a week to produce podcast. You do live stuff, right?
Everything is live. I grew up a huge fan of radio. I mean, as did you. You know, you're obviously in the business, and for me, this is my end of the business. I grew up listening to Howard Stern and even Leo Laporte later on from Tech TV. So my influences were primarily radio guys and not television guys. So when we decided that we were going to do a podcast, my number one priority was to do it live first. Live first, everything else second. Now I know that kind of the industry's flipped, where everything is now overly produced and it's YouTube videos and downloadable content, but we still stick to the core. Yeah, we do the podcast, we do video podcasts, audio podcasts, but we always start off with live. So if we're doing it, this is what we're doing. And I kind of feel like it prepares you to not have to edit.
True. And you can produce things more quickly. Now, you've got a lot of gear there, and sometimes you have in-studio guests, like radio stations bring people around the morning show or the talk shows or the sports talk show, whatever. But most of your podcasts, your guests are remote from you. So tell me about what gear your guests typically have, whether they're a one-time guest or an every week kind of co-host.
So I actually get asked that question all the time. The way that we produce our shows, our video aspect, right? Our audio, obviously, we have a Radius console here from Maxia. We have a lot of Telos products here, which I'm personally a huge fan of Telos. So for me, it's an easy endorsement because the products are unbelievable. But for the video aspect, what we do, we use a software called vMix. And vMix has a video streaming service, an IP video service called vMix Call. It's WebRTC based. You could do it within a browser, as simple as just having your guest sending them a link and they just put in the password and there they are. Or if they, like permanent guests that we have, like Spencer Coburn and the Bald Truth, he also has vMix. So you could do vMix to vMix, and it's doing, I think it's 64K AAC audio with 1080p video. I mean, the quality is actually unbelievable if you think about it. But for a regular guest, what we generally do is we tell them to pick up one of these, which I happen to have coincidentally. Very simple microphone. It's the Audio-Technica AT2005 USB mic or the ATR 2100. It's a USB and XLR. Very inexpensive. It's anywhere from $50 to $75 depending on the time you're looking on Amazon. And they just connect it via USB, have a webcam, and boom, they're on the air.
That is an amazing mic, and the fact that broadcast engineers should love that for home studios because it does have USB, so it's a whole sound card in the mic, but it also has an XLR it's a dynamic mic, so you can just hook it up to any analog dynamic system, and you use it that way as well. Let me ask you quickly, we just got another minute here. Some of your shows, including the show that I do on your network, are done with nobody sitting in the seat that you're in. In other words, there's nobody at the controls there. Your gear is actually remote controlled, including your Axia audio console. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
So John, I think he's been producing for 10 years for us now. I used to produce everything. I think you remember when you first started, I used to have to sit here every show and flip the cameras, play with the audio, adjust as we were doing it. We had multiple Skype connections. It was really insanity on how we used to produce, especially your show, because yours is heavily as far as guests go, right? You always have a full panel of guests. So we started streamlining everything. And John he's the one who came up with the idea where he could technically, from Michigan, produce the show here in New York via using TeamViewer or any remote access software. We set up a VPN. I don't know if we're utilizing it right now, but to kind of make things a little bit seamless. He just dials in and does everything from his house. So he's going from Michigan to Queens to everybody else and is able to produce the shows and get it online.
That is amazing. And that's the way that radio stations are having to work, people working from home. Sure, we can do an audio connection via a number of different means, but there also needs to be some control because maybe nobody's at the radio station. So I understand that John can control the audio console without any special software on his end. He's got an HTML interface that's built in the console. Is that right?
Yeah, that's how he does it. He just he's able to dial it through a web browser, essentially. Control all the faders. Obviously, they don't move, but he's able to control the faders because everything is IP based.
Yeah.
So you don't have to physically control the fader for the levels to be up or down. And for him to be able to do that, it makes his life so much easier because there have been numerous times that, now I got small kids. They come into the studio and they hit the button and all of a sudden there's no audio. So I would have to physically be here to turn it back on. We don't have to do that. He's able to do that through a browser, which is unbelievable.
Some consoles have moving faders. Yours, they're not motorized, but you can move them electronically, remotely. By the way, it's a good thing that they don't move physically because it would knock over your figurines. What you got there?
All my wrestling figures here for the show that we do, Mat Men. I have them on display on the console. So yeah, it would knock everything over, or it would. I don't know if it would actually move. If some of these, like this big guy here, I don't know if he'd move it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Andrew, thank you for being on. We may do a more in-depth interview with you later, and with John Bubb, Suncast, the producer, who's the guy that actually does this work remotely. Thank you for getting that all set up. And this is just de rigueur for you. You've done this kind of remote work for years, haven't you?
10 years now and counting still.
That's awesome. Andrew Zarian, the founder and CEO of the GFQ Network, based out of New York, Queens, New York. Guys from Queens. That's what GFQ stands for. I'm Kirk Harnack for the Telos Alliance.